All right, let's talk about religion. So, trailing off of our last video, we are starting to define basic and fundamental principles of spiritualism and what it looks like to be spiritual. And so, we want to take a look at the other side of that coin, which is institutionalized religion. So, let's break it down. Let's define religion, first of all. So, through summation of available definitions, we can summarize the definition of religion as a set of institutionalized attitudes, beliefs, and practices, all of which must be maintained and consistent. This standard is justified through devotion and faith. Okay, so it's important to also factor that into the equation. And this is furthered by becoming conscientious. So the definition of religion essentially is you have an institutionalized standard of beliefs, and those beliefs are then going to be backed by faith and conscience to some degree. And with that being said, let's move further. So the real issue we have with institutionalized religion is that it is based off of a belief system, but it's somebody else's belief system that we are adopting and taking into our own belief system. And so what's going to happen is eventually our conscience is going to start asking questions. We're going to start to question the belief system, this set of rules and practices that are a part of the religion. And when that happens and we approach someone who heads up the religion, they are going to combat this by imploring doubt. What they're going to do is they're going to say to us, hey, listen, you know what, this is just a test. This is your doubt, even to the point of shaming us based off of our questions, which might most likely are completely logical and reasonable. But at the end of the day, the religious institutions do not want you questioning the belief system. And so what happens is that religion is really great up to a point, because we do need religion to some degree as a stepping stone. It's a really great gateway. But if we're going to take that gateway and turn it into the reality of everything that's going on around us, we wind up losing critical thinking. So if we just start accepting a belief system, whatever it may look like, then that's going to be damaging to us as far as our critical thinking goes. Not only that, when you start to ask questions or doubt the religious belief system, it's going to diminish your faith. That's going to be inherent. That's just going to happen. Your faith is going to be challenged there. So again, by definition, if we're looking at the idea of faith, means that you believing without seeing, right? So most people are of the mindset of I'll believe it when I see it. But institutionalized religion really loves this faith-based idea where, you need to believe it and then you'll see it, then you'll experience it. But until you believe it. So again, they're putting you in this position where you have to accept the narrative first. You have to brainwash yourself or allow yourself to be brainwashed in order to actually grasp and get the deeper, more conscientious, fundamental ideas behind institutionalized religion. Faith over intelligence, that is the motto of institutionalized religion. And make no mistake, religious doubts will arise. How can they not? You are going to ask questions. I mean, especially when you're dealing with very extreme narratives. And again, one of the things that I think is the most important here is that we remember that absolutism and religion go hand in hand. Once we start dealing with institutionalized religion, we're going to start experiencing absolutism. And this is really where people get themselves in trouble. Now, I'm not debating anybody's religious beliefs. I would never do that. Your belief system is totally your belief system, and it's respectable. But at the same time, we have to remember that it is somebody else's belief system. Somebody else did come to those conclusions. You did not organically and naturally come to those conclusions. If you pick up somebody's book, if you pick up an institutionalized book, and you start to read it and you take that book at face value, then you have to understand that somebody else got to that place via their experience. And now you need to take that book and that information, or whoever's feeding you the information, and really run it through your own filters and say, does all of this make sense to me? Does this all cultivate my own personal perspective on what's going on around me and inside of me? One of the really important things is to remember is that your consciousness is not born from institutionalized beliefs. I mean, ultimately, you must choose your beliefs or somebody else's beliefs, because there's not two of us in the world who share the exact same belief system. There's going to be idiosyncrasies and variations of every person's belief system. But again, that's why in the first video, we really tried to implore some very fundamental, basic things that should apply across all spiritual organizations, all religious organizations. And that idea of spiritualism, which is 100% effort and good decision making, those are things that are non-negotiable across the board. And so when the institutionalized religions come along and they start to backdoor 100% effort, they start to backdoor good decision making, and then they tell you that you just don't understand, they implore that doubt in you. And then it's up to you to decide, am I being hoodwinked here, or am I actually right? Do I have, is there validation in what I'm saying? For me, faith has a different meaning. One married to certainty. For me, faith is a tool which creates certainty, not one that should arouse doubt. This is why religious systems facilitate absolutism and abhor the other institutionalized beliefs. I mean, we've seen that throughout history. If you don't believe what I believe, then you're wrong. And now you're my enemy, even to that degree, which again is not healthy, nor is that love your neighbor as yourself. That's hate your neighbor because they're not like you. And again, that's completely contradictory to basic fundamental spiritual law. Now, the institutionalized religions have to come up with a way now to really hook, line, and sinker you. And so the way that they're going to do that is they're going to create narratives such as damnation, punishment, eternal hellfire, ousting, disconnection from God. These are just a few of the many repercussions religious groups have contracted. And it's really important to remember that if you're telling me that if I don't completely obey and entertain your belief system, then I'm going to be damned for all eternity because they didn't accept your narrative. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Nor do I think a true spiritual individual, someone who is really humble, someone who is breaking ego, is going to really be in a place where they think that the belief system is going to save them. I mean, it's just not practical thinking. I mean, again, anybody critical thinking is going to come to a quick conclusion that my actions and who I am as a human being and what I'm doing, the quality of my being, is way more important than what I believe per se, right? And at the same time, the belief system is really what separates one person from the other. I believe in this, you believe in that, and so we are completely separate from each other. And that's the game of institutionalized religion on a much deeper and bigger play. We have to remember that these groups want us to be separate from each other. They don't want us working together. They don't want us coming together. They want to control us. That is the whole system. The whole system is control, not to save your soul. The real goal here is let me control as many people as I possibly can. That gives me power, that gives me money, and then that builds upon my absolutism. It's very convenient that the only solution to these repercussions of damnation and punishment from God, ousting, whatever it may be, the solution lies in the arms of the institution. So the only way you're going to be saved from the institution's narrative is through the institution's narrative. And again, they create this circular movement here where it's like they get you in the door and then they hold you there and they keep you there because they tell you that the only way you're going to find salvation is through their narrative. This is a narrative that I strongly attest and think is quite unreasonable. We're all people, and to some degree, we're all equal. The thing that does separate one person from the other is their ability to make decisions and what kind of effort people and how hard someone works and what's the quality of their decision making. That does separate one person from another, but it doesn't make anybody better than each other. And that's one of the things that the institutionalized religion comes in and does, and it says, hey, we're better. We are the channel. You need us to get to a spiritual place. You need us to talk to God. You need us to talk to God on your behalf. All of those things which are absolutely not true. God is here inside of your heart, not inside the books in the hands of those institutionalized religions. And it's really important that we come to that place and remember that my relationship with God is my relationship with God, not your relationship with God. And we need to really remember that and hit that home. Also, how can I make conscious decisions when I'm being pressed with this absolutism, when I'm being pressed with institutionalized belief, when I'm being forced into a faith-based system. How can I actually make conscious decisions? Because my decision making now is going to be skewed based off of what the narrative of the organization or the belief system that I've adapted actually is. And so this leads us into a place of fear. And that's not really healthy. Fear is going to trump our questions and our logic and our doubts in the system. And it's going to overturn logical conclusions and keeps us clinging to that institution because we eventually accept the idea that, hey, without this institution, without this belief system, I'm in big trouble, which also is not the case. And it's really important to remember that there's one well, and we all drink from it, regardless of belief and religious commitment. We may travel down different roads coming from different places, but the final destination is the same. It is the well, it is the water, the provider of life, and we all drink from it. It's one place. So regardless of how you believe you need to get to that well, the well is still the same. And it's really important that we remember that and that we swallow that pill and say, okay, you know what? This is the goal. This is the place that I need to get to. But at the same time, I'm quite capable of getting there without somebody else's belief system. And it's something that we're really lacking nowadays, where I think it's too extreme. I'm going to completely and utterly adapt and accept this religious system into my life, or we have the other side of the coin, which is that no one's going to tell me what to do, and neither of those both of those places are extreme, and we need to kind of meet somewhere in the middle. We need to meet in this place that's healthy, where we come to a conclusion of, okay, you know what? There's so much information. I need to take the information that's out there. I need to run it through my filters. I need to take the good stuff out of there, the things that make sense to me. I need to pop those things in. Hey, that narrative actually works really well for me. I want to take that from there. I'm going to take this from there, and then I'm going to process all that information, and I'm going to pop out my own belief system. The most important thing here is remembering is that you could be part of a religious organization. You can be and still hold your own belief system to be true. You don't have to completely and utterly accept the narrative of the church, let's just say, or of the synagogue. You don't have to. But the thing is that if they're an institution that requires you to completely and utterly accept it, you could be ousted for challenging the narrative. So again, that's one of the things you want to remember. Hey, is this a place where I'm here to cultivate myself and grow myself and free think, or is this a place where I'm just supposed to obey? And do you want to be in a place where it's just obedience only? That's a question you have to ask yourself. It's also really important just to kind of touch on the main point of all of this, which is that we're all on a journey towards the well. And the well represents the water of life. It represents who we need to be. It's pure. And at the same time, while we're all walking down the paths towards that well, we need to remember that we should be respecting each other and each other's processes and each other's paths, and not coming up with this absolutism, which is that, hey, my road is the only road that leads to that well. This is not healthy, nor is it productive, and it only causes unrest. It leads into debate and fighting, even murder, which, again, institutionalized religions are completely and utterly guilty of murder, right? I mean, maybe not the heads of the religions at some times, but it's still they're facilitating that narrative, which is that, hey, these people don't believe what we believe, you should murder them. And it's okay if you do, because they are scum of the earth. That is a pretty standard institutionalized religious belief system. I mean, implemented by almost all the world's major religions. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but again, if you look through history, we can see that religion and death are synonymous with each other. And again, we have to remember that the road to the well should be trodden with us helping each other and caring about each other and offering assistance to each other when we can, loving each other, never death.